Coast League, a lot of you people don't realize it, but they were the third major league. We got that classification. And if it hadn't been for O'Malley with Brooklyn and Stoneham of the New York Giants and stole San Francisco and Los Angeles, and killed the big cities in our league, we would have maintained a major league status, which would have been great and would have eventually led to Portland getting a major league team. Anyway, these guys want me to tell this fantastic story about Herm Rich, handsome Herm. This guy had more women on his elbow. When he left after the season was over in his car, there's about 12 women waving goodbye to him. Anyways, I liked Herm. Herm was a great team player, just a hell of a guy. But Herm told me one time, he said, Ed, there's one play that every outfielder in baseball wants to make before he dies. And I said, what the heck is that, Herm? He said, well, that's to take a ball in your hip pocket when you go out there, in the field, and see if you can rob somebody out of a hit, with this ball. So anyways, here we are, we're playing Oakland, and Earl Rapp, he was known as the Earl of Rapp, because this guy was a great home run hitter, left-hand hitter. Anyways, we're behind 5-3, and it's toward the end of the game. Earl Rapp is coming to the plate, and here's another guy that when he'd be in the batter's box, he'd be timing that pitcher when the other guy was up at the plate. And a good low ball hitter. Ed Liska was pitching. And of course, Liska with his great submarine delivery, which he did a great job for Portland. The guy was one of the great competitors that I've ever played with, Ed Liska. Of course, he had a little help on his glove, on the band on his glove. He had a hacksaw blade tape. Yes, he did. I saw it. So he'd get a new ball out there and turn around with his back. All you gotta do is rough it up on one side, and then you're gonna get it. But anyways, I'm at second base, and when you're playing infield and a guy hits the ball over your head, you can tell it's a home run. You can tell. There's no doubt about it. On the third pitch, old Rapp, with 2 men on, hits a screamer to right field in Vaughn Street. I just went down, I said, oh no, God, we're behind again. I didn't even turn around. So finally I did turn around, and here's Rich going back to the wall, backing up. He's up at the wall, jumps way up, comes down, tumbles with the ball in his hand. So he comes running by me. That was the third out. Earl Rapp, in the meantime, kind of slowed down after first base. He's looking at that right. This was one of those days when that orange smoke. There was a low ceiling, and the lights weren't that good at Bond Street. So anyways, Rapp is standing there, and here comes Herm running by me, and I said, Herm, for crying out loud, that thing is still going, isn't it? He said, you can bet it's still going. He robbed Rapp out of a 3-run homer, and we win the game 5-3. That's not the end of the story, though. 2 weeks later, we're in Oakland, and I can't leave it alone. I'm waiting for Rapp to come out of their clubhouse. It came by ours in Oakland. So I popped out when he came by, and I said, oh, hi, Earl. He said, oh, hi, Eddie. I said, hey, Earl, you remember a couple weeks ago, remember that ball off of Liska? I thought you hit that thing pretty good. He says, Ed, I read about that heavy air up there in Seattle and Portland. Boy, is that air heavy in Portland. Brovia, one of the great home run hitters that we had, a super guy, and I'll tell you, this guy loved to hit. When an opposing pitcher would warm up in the bullpen, he would come out early with his bat, and he would watch this guy while he was pitching. Boy, he was already hitting this guy while he was back in the damn bleacher. Bob Blackburn came in one time in the clubhouse, Joe Brovia had this idea that the scorekeepers were cheating him so that he couldn't get a higher batting average and get a raise next year. He really did think that. Well, this one day, he got 3 for 4 in this game, the game before. The paper comes out and it's 1 for 4. He said, God damn it, there it is again. They're doing it to me again. So old Blackburn comes walking in, you know, hi fellas. And old Brovia goes right up to Blackburn. He said, Bob, come over here. Boy, I got to tell somebody about this. He said, yesterday I got 3 for 4, and look at this paper, 1 for 4. And Blackburn said, well, Joe, that's a typographical error. He said, error, shit, those were line drive.
Vince threw a hell of a lot of shit balls. I asked Vince what he did. He says, Elvis, I'm an educator. He'll say, I am a good educator. And he was a great educator. In fact, I think it's fair, Vince, to say about you that you were to education what Michael Jordan was to baseball. You thought that was a compliment coming in. Outside of 3.5 years in the Navy during World War II, my whole life has been in Slabtown, USA. Johnny Peski, okay? And it's on Boston Red Sox stationery. It says, Dear Bill, glad you are emceeing Vincent's roast. Hope it will be a good one. Tell Vince I'm hiring a huge truck to help him clean out his house. Do hope to come out after the season. If my college brother hasn't complied with my request, I'll turn around and I'll go right back to Boston. Miss seeing you, Bill. Take care, my friend. Best regards, Johnny. P.S. Hope the roast is a good one. Say hello to all my good friends from St. Pat's, Slabtown, and all the Boston Red Sox fans. Signed, Johnny Peski.
I know a lot of you people are members of the St. Pat's Parish, and the first time that I came here, I couldn't figure out how you got a seat. I walked down the aisle, and here was the Peski pew, here was the Bozich pew, here was the Besic pew, and I'm saying, my gosh, if you don't know someone that has a pew in this place, you don't get a seat. So I talked to St. Vince, and he says, just sit anywhere. And that's Peski. That's what he's known here at St. Pat's. St. Vince. If there's an elderly person that needs a lawn mowed, if there's someone that needs something done, who does it? Good old Vince. He's always helping. And all he asks of them is, say a prayer for me. So when I get to purgatory, I'm going to ask Vince if he's got a few left for me so that I can get out a little quicker, because he's way ahead of the game. Vince was a baseball coach for a long time at Marshall High School. And while he was coaching there, his buddy, Stan Bozich, wherever he is, was coaching at Roosevelt. And I graduated from Roosevelt, and I also umpired. So we're over at Roosevelt one day, and I'm umpiring the Roosevelt game, and of course Vince comes in with the Marshall team, and he says, boy, this is going to be a long day. I know you graduated from Roosevelt. So we played about 2 or 3 innings, and all of a sudden there was a close play, and out came Vince. He says, I knew this was going to happen, Vern. I know you're from Roosevelt. I knew that I was going to get some bad calls tonight, but that one was really bad. And I said, Vince, come on. You're just mad because we're winning.
One of our family mottos was, do not park in the left field parking lot. Vince Peski is pitching today. You recyclable. Whether I need vintage athletic equipment such as a Don head goalie stick or parts for antique machinery, I can come to you. I have often had special household projects that needed planks of wood or 2x4s, and you've always come through. The motto of one man's junk being another man's treasure makes your Northwest Portland home a castle. On this special night, I hope that you will be able to control one of your passions. There has never been a microphone that you could resist. And that story involving the cannibals and the missionary will forever be part of the lore of the old-timers banquet scene.
And you're looking for role models when you're growing up, people that, hey, I'd like to be like that guy, because he really shows me some class. He shows me some authority, how he can handle kids. After my freshman year, I didn't know what I wanted to major in. And I thought back and said, gosh, those guys were great. I'd like to be like them. So there again is something that Vince did to young kids when they were growing up. Vince is a collector. You people didn't know that. A collector, not of antiques, not of coins, not of stamps, but of junk. When they tore Bond Street down back in the late 50s, the scoreboard, you remember the scoreboard in center field? And those great big horns that blared out, 6 of them. He had that scoreboard in his backyard for about 2 years. Sleeping on the ceiling is like sleeping on a cloud. Remember that sign? Right there? The neighbors complained, the city officials made him take it out. Collectible. Slab Town Tavern down the street here on 16th and Marshall closed down to new ownership. Slab Town sign. It's about 16 feet long, about 4 feet high, made of metal, heavier than hell. He had to have a crane bring it to his house. He's got it in his backyard. So if you're looking for a Slab Town sign, this will sell it for it. Give it to you cheap. He's got to get rid of it. But he knows where everything is. Down in the basement, that is the appliance and used parts department. Whatever you want, you can find it down there. Believe me, this is true. You heard Trevor Horn mention that in his letter. So someday, Trev and I kid him and Johnny kids him that hey, we're going to get a U-Haul there someday, maybe 2 or 3 of them. We're either going to have a garage sale or we're going to clean this place up. So Vince, you got fair warning. I did mention that Vince grew up here in St. Patrick's. He spent 9 years at St. Patrick's. No, 9. He liked the first grade so well, he stuck around for another year.
When we were playing for Vince, we thought we were running track because his favorite line was, do the lap, start running. They're saying, wait a minute, where's baseball practice? I said, no, start running, start running. Well, it happened one time out at, we were playing Franklin. This is a JV game. Franklin was kicking us. I think they were up like 2-0, but we finally ended up winning the game. But anyway, we had bases loaded with no outs. Okay. We had a 3, 4, and 5 guys at bat. To be perfectly honest, I was one of those 3. But all 3 of us struck out. And right then, Mr. Peski, our coach, said something in vain that you can't repeat here in this next company. But his leg came up like he was a ballet dancer. We started laughing. There's a guy in the back who started laughing. Essa back there. And you'll get yours. So we got off the bus back at Jefferson High School. Start running. Start running. That's all we did is run laps. Oh, I love you, Coach. Have a good one.
I was at the University of Portland and played 4 years. And in those days, whoever was available was named the baseball coach. And one year, I think it was my sophomore year, Vince was available. But it was, in all honesty, it was refreshing. Because in those days, most of the coaches were football coaches and basketball coaches. They didn't know beans about baseball. And the University of Portland teams in those days were made up of a lot of guys in this room from the west side of Portland who grew up at Vaughn Street. So we knew the game. So it was very refreshing, Vince, to have a baseball knowledgeable guy to coach all these guys. But he had a hell of a problem. How do you deal with guys, you know, who was on that team? The Bozich, Fager, my brother and I, Sadliches, Lulich, all these guys, you know, how do you deal with those guys? Vince had a hell of a job. I have to tell you an interesting story, though. He had to have signals on the team for what we call the foreštis. Now, in Croatian, forešti means foreigners. But we considered the team to be Croatian, and the rest of the guys were foreigners. So Vince, he had signals for the rest of the guys, but for all of the Croatian kids, you know, if he wanted to take a pitch, he'd say, "Uzmi," which means take. And if he wanted to put the hit and run on, it'd be, "Udrigai Turchi," which is hit and run. And Andy, you're definitely right. You know, Vince was a pitcher, and he taught me a lot. And I was kind of the same way. I couldn't throw a 95-mile fastball. But Vince used to tell me, "Now, John, you get 2 and 2 on a hitter, scuff up the mound, scuff up the mound. And then when you go back to rear back, step up about 2 feet and let him go."